my cousin's grandmother used to make, she owned a catering company, and she would make a lobster and corn stew or lobster and corn chowder.
This is a perfect answer.
That was unbelievable. Like the greatest thing I've ever tasted in my life. And I worked at the catering company when I was like probably 15, something like that. And I would clean dishes. And I remember one time watching her make it. I was like, Graham, what is the secret ingredient here? And she just dumped like 6 sticks of butter in it.
Yeah.
And she was like, that's all it is right there. Yeah. But it's from Pharisees Catering. It was a lobster corn stew that was to die. And their cake. Oh my God.
Hey everybody, welcome on back to You Gotta Try This. This I think is our 3rd episode. Stu Feiner came on last week and my voice still hasn't recovered from it. So thank you to Stu. He's an electric factory. He's cocaine in your coffee. And we're going to have him back at some point after this. Mangold was the first time that we had recorded this podcast. Then we had Stu. And today we have John Feitelberg. And I got to be honest with you, those 3 guys could be the 3 guys here that I've met since I got to Barstool that are the easiest and most enjoyable guys to talk to. So Feits is going to be coming up in just a couple of minutes. You're going to get to hear that. And then Feits and I are going to retire to the bar right over here in the Barstool office. And we're going to try that viral Bird Box sandwich that was viral a couple of months ago. I never tried it then, but it was the one that has the chicken foot hanging off of the spicy chicken sandwich. So Ian's going to cut the hell out of that, put it out there on YouTube. I'm going to talk to Feits in just a little bit. But let's just chat about food, shall we? Ian, how you doing? How's the experience so far working with me on You Gotta Try This?
It's been great so far. I think we're putting out good content and the people love it, especially Stu, the clip of his death row meal that went viral last week.
I don't know how you guys live your lives. I don't know, but I know that you don't live them like Stu. And I can also tell you that this guy is a legitimate wild man. We all play up our vices and whatnot, but Stu lives his life a quarter mile at a time, and it's worked for him, and God bless him. And I think Feits is kind of the same way with that. We're already started to get some DMs. If anybody ever wants to DM me to have something that I should talk about on the show, please do. Obviously, my DMs are open on all platforms. So yes, you can hit me whatever. And I got one yesterday. I'd asked the kid if I could use his name. So his name is Adam. And he sent me this. He said, so Adam, I listened to you for a long time. And since you started on Barstool Breakfast, anyway, I'm now 31 years old. I think I just got my first showing of gout. This shit sucks. I literally thought I broke my big toe right in the joint. Anyway, I feel you now. Every time you said you had flare-ups, I wouldn't wish it on anyone. LOL. Adam, man, I feel your fucking pain. I don't know what a young guy like Adam or what a young guy like Ian, because Adam's only 31 years old, I think he'd said, yeah, need to do to avoid that fucking disease that I have. They call it the rich man's disease because of when it had started. It was traditionally stuff that only rich people had eaten. But now anything kind of like high in purines, and it's different for everybody. This gout thing is no joke. I haven't had a flare up in a couple of years, but I will tell Adam right now, if they don't put you on allopurinol, which is kind of a blood thinner, so you can have a little bit more better circulation around your extremities, there's a drug called colchicine. Colchris is sometimes how it's marketed, and it is a miracle drug. You get a flare up, and for people who don't know what gout is, I can't believe I'm doing a food podcast. I'm talking about gout, but I have gout because of all the stuff that I eat, and sometimes I'm a bigger man. Your blood just flows a little bit slower around your extremities, and that's where things can collect. So you can have particles that seem like they're hot glass form around the joint in your left big toe that you can't drop a Kleenex on your toe without feeling absolute pain. So the Colchris that I take attacks that almost directly, except after 2 days of taking this Colchris, you shit your fucking mind away. And it's something that you will gladly do to get this pain. So Adam, to get this pain away. Adam, I feel you, brother. I absolutely feel you. I wish you the best of luck. I'm not on allopurinol. I have cold Chris on me at all times whenever I travel in case I get a fucking flare up. And, you got to stay hydrated. Tart cherry juice, which you get at these nature stores. I cut it with a lot of ice and some seltzer, tart cherry juice, and just hydrate. And there are certain things that you'll see. Seafood is a big trigger for a lot of people. Again, I haven't had it in a couple of years, but when I had it, holy shit. I don't know if it was worse than the kidney stones that I suffered from. This is going to turn into a big medical fucking episode, but I feel you, brother, and I wish you the best. You don't have anything like that, do you?
No gout, not yet. I'm too young for that. Also too young for that. Another big food podcast who was in the office this week.
Who's that?
The MDFoodieboyz.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I was sitting there with Dave, and I'm going to talk to Feits about it too, just to see because he seems to be more plugged in than me, but everybody is. Dave Portnoy was in the New York office for 2 days this week. He doesn't come to the New York office that often. He doesn't have to. But he came in specifically to shoot content with 4 kids who are they 15 and younger?
They're like 12.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. So these are preteens, and these kids have some sort of podcast where they talk about food in like the most rudimentary manner you've ever seen. It's not overly compelling, but it's adorable. And they seem like they're very, very nice kids. So they got some degree of virality, and Dave is in with them both feet. He's doing 4 or 5 pizza reviews with these guys, which I think is unheard of. So he came through the office. I said, "Hey, Dave, how are you?" He's like, "Hey, Large, I got the MDFoodieboyz in." And so these little kids, again, seem like great kids. Their parents, great parents, came in, and he paraded them around like show ponies. Brianna out of the road. "Oh my God, the Foodieboyz. Oh my God, the Foodieboyz." These kids are going to be legitimate, like, even if it's temporary, or they are already superstars. And good for them. All of a sudden, Mooby and Kelly, who do the fishbowl, along with Jackie, Gia, everyone sort of gets in there. Caroline is in there quite a bit. They had them on the show. I think I was supposed to be on fishbowl. I got pushed for these fucking punks. So that'll be coming out with Dave as far as the pizza reviews go in a couple of weeks. And they're good kids, and they seem like they have good parents. I still don't understand what the fuck they do.
I was showing Large the clips earlier about
I still don't get it.
Them trying celery for the first time, trying carrots for the first time, and there's like vegetables. Nah, not for me.
Yeah, then that's the end of it. Like if one of them, was to say, "Oh, celery," it's sort of like hairy water. Like if they could even just use their words, it would be a little bit better for me. But it's enough for some people. God bless them.
To each their own, and they're way bigger than us. So maybe
huge.
Maybe go take a page out of take a page of The Office. Less words is better. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Shout out MDFoodieboyz. But yeah, so the kids were in town. I think it's going to be great. One of the things that Ian had put out for us on You Got to Try This page this week was my barbecue experience at Archibald's down in Tuscaloosa. If you read some of the comments below it, a lot of people are pushing Dreamland over Archibald's. A lot of people are saying, "Large, you have to try the wings when you're in Archibald's." I try everything everywhere I go. I've been to Archibald's. I've been lucky enough my son goes to University of Alabama, so I've been to Archibald's a couple of times. I've had everything that they've had there, and everything is outstanding, particularly the wings. But when I was shooting this, we have to keep it to be algo friendly, be about 60 seconds or less. So I couldn't get to everything. And I thought the catfish would be a little bit more photogenic. So we did the catfish, we did the ribs. I was talking about this guy, this pitmaster guy. Ian, please go watch the clip, right? Just go watch the clip. I had talked about the ribs thusly. I said they were the kind of ribs that you were in a rush to eat them all. Like, when you bite into something and then you're like, hum, num, 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 num. And I think you sped up the tape when I was eating. So it does look almost fucking comical. But Archibald's in Northport, Alabama, just outside of Tuscaloosa, they have 2 locations somewhere in there. I'm telling you right now, it's elite barbecue for me. And whoever the pitmaster was, he didn't give a single fuck if there was one person at the counter or 20 people. We had about 5 or 6 people in there when I was there, and the guy's hitting the coals with a hose, filling this whole place up with smoke. I mean, people leaving with their eyes tearing, and it all comes full circle. I got a little tingle in my toe because I was drinking so much sweet tea while I was down. I love sweet tea down in the South. Milo's, whatever it is, give it to me, sweet tea. But it does give me a little bit of a trigger here. So Archibald's, next time you guys are in Tuscaloosa, it's a must try. Gout, don't fucking get it. What else am I going to talk about? Oh, MDFoodieboyz, absolute geniuses. And I hope that they somehow retweet some of the stuff that we're going to do. And finally, John Feitelberg. John Feitelberg's about to come on, and I'm going to press him about porn stars, Boston foods, his disgusting eating habits at night, and whether or not he's ever going to step in the ring against Will Compton. So stay tuned for that, and here's Feits. All right, so as promised, we're sitting here with one of my favorite guys at Barstool, and one of the first people I met when I came to Barstool. It's John Feitelberg, you know him more affectionately as Feits. You don't remember this, John, but when I was laid off from a job on Wall Street.
Okay.
And I had 2 job offerings that was very similar to the job I had just gotten laid off on. And at that same time, somehow Kevin had found out that I had been laid off. Kevin was a huge fan of Take a Report when I was doing that thing. Yeah. The only reason Kevin is anything is because of me. Right? So Kevin had found out that I was laid off. So he said, why don't you come into the office and do a podcast and a radio show with me that day. So I said, yeah, I'd love to come in. I came in, I knew nobody there. I knew nothing about Barstool. I'd never listened to it, read it, or done anything. And I did Barstool Radio that afternoon. It was myself, Kevin, I believe Trent, and maybe Riggsy.
Okay.
And we did the radio show, and it was great. And then I got out and met a couple of the guys. And then we went in to do KFC Radio, and it was you and I and Kevin. And we sat down. Again, you didn't know me from Adam. So we brought up a clip, and it's going to come full circle of how this relates to food. And it was the Joe Rogan Fear Factor episode where they had to drink the donkey cum.
Yep. Okay.
And so I'm telling you, Ian, I don't know if did you ever see this one?
No.
They give them pint. And so when I had brought it up at the time, Feits wasn't aware of it, or one of us. I was intimately aware of it. Not that I'm a big fan of drinking cum. So we brought it up. And so it's the first time I'm meeting John, and it's the first time I saw him throw up. I've seen him throw up multiple times because of rest in peace lowering the bar with Vibsy. Yeah, like you were the go-to guy to try a fucking, like 100-year-old eggs or something. And
throw up. I pissed my pants on that show once. I ate something so hot. The hot chicken we just had. I ate something so hot on that show, I pissed my pants.
Right. Yeah. So all of a sudden, Kevin's like, no, I'm not familiar with it. So we brought it up on the show. We brought it up on YouTube, and there's just a girl and a guy chugging a pint glass full of
thick. It's bigger than that. I thought it was even, maybe it's a pint glass, but
it was at least
a lot.
Yeah,
of cum.
Yeah, we'll call it. Yeah. It was more cum than it was more donkey cum than you'd want, and it was legitimate. And I've seen them milk donkeys before. You go in through their asshole, right, and you do it, and then all of a sudden everything breaks loose, so you can easily top off an imperial pint. The first time we watched it was one of my favorite memories of you. How you doing, brother? How's everything going?
I'm better than I was that day.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was honestly, as you started saying it, because before we got in here, you asked me, I think it was, I remember the first time we met or something like that. Right. And I was like, not really. Mm-hmm. And then as you started talking, I was like, oh, I know where we're going. I know where we're going. Right. Yeah. That was, to this day, probably the most repulsive video I've ever watced.
Yeah, it's up
and
there.
I've seen them all. I've seen,
no.
2 Girls, 1 Cup didn't really bother me. I don't like it, but it wasn't, gross.
It was one of the toughest wanks I've ever had.
Yeah. I still came. Don't get me wrong, but broke a sweat doing it. Yeah. There were a couple others of the notoriously bad internet videos. That was the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't know what it is with that, but you guys are so, I don't know, plugged in. KFC was fuming that he was doing something else yesterday, didn't get to meet the Maryland Foodie Boys.
Kevin introduced them to me, let's call it 2 months ago, something along those lines. And he was like, dude, do you know about the MDFoodieboyz?
Right.
And I'm not much of a TikTok guy, so I don't really see a lot of that stuff. And I was like, Kevin, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then he showed it to me, and I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. There's no way anything becomes of this. Like, I don't know. At the time, I give them credit. I think at the time they had like 10,000 followers. I don't remember exactly what it was. And I was like, why are we even, again, I wasn't saying this, but in my head, I was like, why are we even watching this right now? What do I care about this? And now they're like the biggest stars in the world.
There's an inherent innocence about those kids, like particularly when they came in yesterday. Even the one with the most attitude, Big Perm? I don't know. Yeah, okay.
I think there's Chub Perm.
Chub Perm, yeah.
Chub Perm.
Like he had a little cockiness to him and a little swagger, had the leopard print, things and all. But there was still such an inherent innocence to him that I'm rooting for them. I still don't know what I'm rooting for. I don't know what they do. And the moms and the dads came with them, obviously, because they're 13 or 14.
Well, isn't school still happening? What are they doing?
I don't know. I guess. But the thing is, if you have the opportunity to do, I don't think I'm giving anything away, but I think they did 5 pizza reviews with Dave, which is, I believe, unheard of.
Yeah.
I think Dave did 1 pizza review with like Trump. Like these kids did fucking 5, you know?
Dude, I think I don't know what's public and what isn't. Dave's turned down some incredibly big names for pizza reviews.
Yes.
And he did 5 with the MDFoodieboyz.
Yeah, exactly.
Like A-list, A+ list, the biggest stars in the world. Dave was like, no. And the MDFoodieboyz, he goes, let's hit 5.
Isn't it? And this is still, they're foodie boys. So this is still staying within the parameters of you got to try this. But don't you think that Dave has selective fascinations with people that aren't overly fascinating?
Yes.
And I'll give you one example. I had to host something last year, a video game thing between the people here at Barstool. And the person that we brought in was the King of Kong guy. Mm-hmm. I don't even remember the guy's name.
Billy Powers?
Billy Powell?
Billy
something like that. Yeah.
I forget.
And I'm telling you, Dave was all about it. What is it?
Billy Mitchell.
Billy Mitchell. What a great fucking name, by the way. Billy Mitchell.
I think that might be the oldest name I've ever heard Dave reference. Like, I remember reading Dave writing about Billy Mitchell when I was in high school. So, like, I'd be in high school reading Barstool Sports, and Dave was obsessed with this guy, Billy Mitchell. I've still never seen the documentary. I know what it's about and all that stuff, but he was obsessed and remains to this day obsessed with that guy.
The guy came in, and again, like they had, for some reason they tagged me to host this thing, and he's okay. Like honestly, like he's legitimately just okay. These 4 kids, the MDFoodieboyz, I hope they make a gazillion dollars. But it's like, what's your favorite topping? Somebody had sent it to me. What's your pepperoni's gross? Yeah, you know, like that's it. You know, like we were just talking about a goddamn chicken sandwich. And we'll release it on another like short thing. Feits and I just tried a viral chicken sandwich with the foot, and I'm obligated to do this with the chicken foot still on from Bird Box, so you can tune into that. But when you and I were trying the sandwich, and we're regular guys for the most part, me more so than you, but you were like, yeah, I'm getting more batter than chicken. I'm doing like we're actually breaking this thing down, and then these kids get up there, they're blowing me out of the fucking water by saying that Sprite is too spicy, or whatever the fuck that they're saying.
Isn't that like the fun of the internet? Is it's so like, first of all, in your head, you know, no one thinks we're doing high art, but you're like, I'm doing something a little different. And then you see a couple 14-year-olds, and you're like, that's exactly what I'm doing.
That's it. That's exactly it.
That's exactly what I do.
Yeah. Their parents came with them, thank God. Because if they just like did one of those Michael Jackson things where they just let them sleep in fucking Neverland or whatever, the parents came with them. The parents were all lovely people. The moms had a couple of twisted teas while the kids were in there because, you know, everyone was being chauffeured around for this. Brianna Chicken Fried comes running down the hallway. Oh my God, they're here. Like Brianna's a pretty big star, right?
Yeah.
Certainly recognizable. And the kid's like, hi, I'm like, she's like, shut up. You're Big Perm, you're No Name, you're fucking McLovin, and you're whatever the hell it is. Like they're legitimate celebrities. Do you think that there's a trajectory for these kids where they do continue to be superstars? Or in 4 years, 5 years from now, are they drinking Donkey Kong? Like, where do you see these kids going? Because there's only one of 2 ways.
I think it's probably
the Donkey Kong
route, and I hope for the best for him.
I do,
but it's kind of just like we've seen it throughout history, right? With like what happens with a child star.
Yeah,
like probably some of them might become Kieran Culkin.
Yes.
Most of them probably won't.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. For every Jason Bateman. Right? Like, yeah, that type of stuff.
Well, you could do it in sports. Like any kid, like the kid who's 13 and fucking dominating usually isn't the one who goes pro.
Right.
Usually it's the kid who's got to keep fighting a little bit. I'm hoping for the Foodie Boys. I guess. I don't really care, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
I'm talking about them.
Yeah.
By the way, there is a third road that they can take. It's not Donkey Kong or, just internet, whatever, Kardashian for the rest of their life. They can also just ride this out, make a couple of bucks, then become engineers, have families, and be very happy for the rest of their lives.
It's just a funny story they told.
That's what I wish upon them.
1 February back in the 2025.
Yeah, where they were hanging out with Dave. You had a question for Feits. Do you want to talk about MD?
Well, I think the athletic comparison to this is Baby Gronk.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Who was just I think I just saw him back in the news for something. But yeah, like the kid who was like playing AAU ball, and you're like, he's fucking good. Sometimes they go pro, but it's rarely that kid.
But these kids don't have that despicability to them. Like, I honestly, I know that there are people who hate Baby Gronk.
Yeah.
Because maybe he's annoying to some. I will tell you that there's some annoying kids that do that Costco cookie thing. Those fucking kids.
Yeah.
Like, I find those kids to be annoying. These kids didn't have that. They seem like they were kind of living in the moment. They remind me of this group of like 12 or 13-year-old boys. I watch way too many 13-year-old boys on the internet. There's a couple of kids in Ohio who are building a clubhouse on their property, like their parents' property. They have some land in Ohio. So they started a GoFundMe because the parents were like, what do you need for it? They were like, oh, we'll probably need like a couple of grand. And they were like, well, let's start a GoFundMe and maybe it'll pick up. And I think it's a responsible thing to do to teach your kids to beg early, right?
Yeah.
And so the GoFundMe, they wanted to raise $2,000. Let's say they raised 38 grand, right? Because that's what tends to happen with that shit. And the kids are like, so we'll use the $2,000 and we'll build the clubhouse that we always wanted to build and take the other 36 grand. And I'm like, are they going to give it to Chad? And we'll build more clubhouses. We'll build bigger clubhouses. We'll just put shit on top. And I was like, those kids are good. So like, so you certainly, I don't want any kid to fail, right? And I don't want any kid to drink Donkey Kong either. I don't want to put that out there in the universe. But some of them are nicer or less despicable than others. And I think the MDFoodieboyz are amongst those.
I think it's when the pair with the Baby Gronk and with the Costco
Here comes
kids.
a boom.
It's when the parents get too involved, and it seems
Yeah.
again. I don't know much about it, but from what I see from afar, it seems like the MDFoodieboyz are kind of left to their own devices. I don't know what their parents look like, and I think if the parents are like, "Look, your kids, go have kid fun,"
Right.
It's weird when the parents start becoming like dance moms, and then that's when it kind of all flips for me.
I like the fact that it's happening around food. Like, I like the fact, just because as we're trying to build something with this, Ian and I, that it's good that even 12-year-old kids who have zero palate, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And zero anything really, right? Other than being just nice 12-year-old kids can sort of create a brand within this food thing. Because a lot of people try and most people fail.
Yeah.
Apologies again about my voice. I'm just going through something.
Sounds
apparently.
sexy.
It's not bad, right? Yeah, it's like whiskey and cigars. And to your point too, since I did get to meet the parents, they didn't seem like pimps.
Yeah.
Like, they really didn't seem like it. And I think Dave had pulled them aside at one point and said, don't get like, he was trying to give them sort of like professional advice on how they can ring the register, however they want to ring the register with this. And at the end of the day, the kids are probably going to, when they come of age, still have a little bit of celebrity. Like, I want to say they're getting laid, but I got to constantly pull back because they're 14 years old. But, so anyway, I wish these kids the best luck. I got a picture with them. I sent it to my kids. I said, you guys know who these guys are? And all three of my kids were like, no. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm a good parent.
Dude, I had when the other ones, the Costco ones came in, I don't really know them. And they walked in the KFC radio studio and someone was holding chocolate chip cookies. And I love chocolate chip cookies.
Sure.
So I was just like, oh, damn, what we got here? And I remember the dad's reaction to me, like not furious, but just like, how dare you not know what those are? And he was like, they're double chocolate chunk cookies. And I was like, oh, great. Can I have one?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, it's like our thing. And I was like, oh, I didn't know you could claim chocolate chip cookies.
Right, yeah,
and then he kind of started with a whole thing where he was like, again, he wasn't being like an asshole or anything like that, but he was definitely surprised that it wasn't a big thing. And then he's like, well, do you guys want a boom or not? I was like, what are you talking about, man? And then he came in and again, it was his show more than it was the kids' show. And then that's when I was like, I'm kind of turned off by this. Like, let kids be kids, let adults be adults. When you mix, it's a little.
I find that, that my kids have a lot of friends, but the ones that I want them to be closer to are the ones whose parents I get along with.
Yeah.
You know, because when you start to have children, you'll find that you have to do meals with your kids' friends' parents.
Is that a nightmare most of the time?
It's a fucking nightmare, man. There's like this thing. Once you move out to the suburbs and you get married and you have your kids, there's like newcomer clubs, you know, for people who are in newer neighborhoods and stuff. Annie and I had moved to Ridgewood, New Jersey, and she grew up in Hohokus, which was right next door to Ridgewood. And Annie was, she was a little bit of a whore, right? Growing up, she was very, very promiscuous. And I think a lot of it was with mechanics. So we never paid for an oil change since I've been up there. Been up there for like 21 years. So we never had to do a lot of newcomer stuff. But there's always like those dads' dinners where you had to sit at a table with 20 other dads. And like, and if you don't know them, like the cool dads automatically get cliquey. And then all of a sudden you get stuck with, you know, like the weird fucking people. And it's just not worth it.
Have you ever had like a conversation with Annie about one of your kids' friends where you're like, look, they really like him or her. Mm-hmm. We can't stand the parents, so they cannot keep hanging out with them.
Yeah. I can tell you, I haven't done that. I haven't, you know, not allowed them to hang out, but I can tell you that there's been, I think, 2 instances, and I have 3 children. There's been 2 instances that I know of where parents have told their kids not to hang out with mine because of me.
Really?
Because of the Barstool thing. Because of the proximity to 14-year-old boys and cum and all podcasts that I do. Like, you know what I mean? Because I think, you know, there's also that stigma that we live just on the internet. Mm-hmm. So if these kids were to come over my house and I'm doing something perhaps inappropriate or something that people would deem inappropriate, that they might be in the background and it could screw them up and stuff. So I have had that type of thing.
Isn't that so frustrating when you're like, look, I'm a functioning person. I'm not like, sure, sometimes I talk a little blue, but I'm not going to have a fucking kid in the background of some video I'm doing with Lisa Ann or something like that.
Right.
I have a functioning brain too.
Yeah. And some of these dads like are a lot more fucking weird than me. Like, you know what I mean? Or inappropriate. Yeah. Like, okay, they don't want you to hang out with me, but I saw the dad at the massage parlor, right? You know what I mean?
So at least I make it interesting and entertaining. You fucking do it in the shadows.
I try to. Adriana Chechik. You ever hear of her?
Come on.
Yeah, you've heard of her.
Who you talking to?
It was one of the first people that you mentioned because on that, I know I'm reminiscing, on that first episode with Kevin and you that I had done, we had also mentioned porn. And I had said that the next big thing in porn, this was 6 years ago, was going to be stuck porn, like where they're trying to get out a window and they get caught and all that. And I had said I had seen something in passing and I was fascinated by it, you know, and I think it was a girl named Fawkes or something. And she was stuck underneath the table and her son-in-law came in and all of a sudden you bang her underneath the table. And I've seen that iteration go throughout. And then you had mentioned Adriana to me for the first time there, saying that there are certain things that she has done and stuff. I didn't know of her game, and that's how I became introduced to her by you. I just saw this. There's a comedian, Kelsey Cook.
Yeah.
She's great.
Yep.
Kelsey, and I know you guys deal with a lot of comedians, but she seems great. So shout out to her. I don't want to use this.
She was just on the show.
Was she just on your show?
She was promoting this special where she mentions Adriana.
Yeah, she was on her way to the dentist, and she said, how surprised will the dentist be with the completely different strands of DNA that will be scrubbing out of her mouth? And I was like, that I never thought about that.
Dude, Adriana Chechik has had.
You've had her on the show too, have you?
No. There was one time we were supposed to have Adriana Chechik on the show. We were in LA. We went to LA to do Something's Burning with Bert.
Okay.
And we got we were doing Something's Burning with Bert. And then afterwards, we were supposed to have an interview with Adriana at our hotel. And Something's Burning with Bert. Bert likes to put some drinks in on you. So I'm getting drunk doing Something's Burning. And I'm like, I got 2 hours left to interview Adriana Chechik. And then I got so drunk where I was like, I think I'm just gonna fuck this girl. I was like, I'm gonna have Adrian Chechik in my hotel room recording the podcast.
Right.
I was like, I think I'm gonna bang this chick.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine you wouldn't, right?
She ended up having to cancel the interview, so we never happened, and I never had sex. But I was at the right level of like, because I've obviously never thought that about 99.9999% of our guests.
Of course.
But I was the right level of drunk. It was gonna be in a hotel room. Like my mind was spinning where I was like, I was the level of drunk where I was like, well, obviously we're gonna fuck. You know what I mean?
Obviously, yeah.
I had that one time, and I had way back in the day. I've had 2 times where I thought I was gonna have sex with a porn star. Way back in the day. Christy Mack. I don't know if you know her.
Yeah, she's the tattooed one. Who almost got beat to death by a UFC boyfriend, right?
War Machine.
War Machine, yeah.
And this is before all that, obviously. She had sent out a tweet.
Why obviously? Is she untouchable after she got beat up like that? I think it makes her more.
She kind of left the afterwards. But she sent a tweet where it was like, whoever makes me the best Lego. She became obsessed with Legos for a minute. She said, whoever makes me the best Lego, I'll blow them. And then she was in Worcester, I think. She was in the Boston area. Right. And so I was like, well, like tonight after her sending this, she's within driving distance of me. Mm-hmm. So we made a video, me and Gaz, where like I went shopping and like went to the Lego store in Boston and bought these Legos. And then we got in the car and we drove them out to Worcester. And I remember the whole car ride just being panicked because I was probably 24, 22 at the time. I don't know, something like that. Right. And I was like, oh my God. She's gonna suck my dick.
Yeah, obviously.
I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do when I get in there? And she's like, all right, do you want this blowjob on camera? And also, she did not suck my dick. Yeah, exactly. But most importantly, Adrian Chechik, she had her fucking her back teeth filed down so she could fit more dick in it.
Really?
That's what, according to her, yeah.
But even this girl, Kelsey, I don't know how much she goes into it in her act. I haven't seen the whole thing. But a bunch of dentists had commented on it saying how it's crazy. We know exactly when we're inside the mouth of somebody who's had a lot of dicks in there because it like damages, or maybe there's a concavity to their fucking, the roof of their mouth just from constantly getting hammered by.
Pop blood vessels.
Blood vessels.
Like, that's what I've heard once before, that like it's basically bruising in the throat that they can tell.
Yeah. Listen, I've been married 26 years and honestly, it's a healthy relationship and stuff. I barely make it past her teeth. Right? And I think that's why it's such a refreshing change from all those fucking mechanics. You had mentioned that you would, Boston, Worcester, all that stuff. When I had asked you to be on this show, my Rosetta Stone is to get Dave to do a North Shore beef with me. Dave came over, again, proud as a papa, to me, hey, Large, hey, Dave, never like a bubbly relationship. Me and Dave have a very good relationship, I believe, but never, I got the MDFoodieboyz here today. I'm like, cool, who the fuck are they? Yeah. I said, oh, that's cool. I'm having to pretend now. Would you come on and do like a North Shore beef thing once this thing gets up and running? Absolutely, because he introduced me to this thing, to these sandwiches. And since then, one of the guys who runs a North Shore beef Instagram account has offered to have me up there to do the full tour, which I am going to do at some point. So when I was having you on and you being from up there, I naturally said, I'm going to ask you about that. You don't know about them. Basically, you know about them, but you don't eat them.
No, it's a great sadness in my life. I'm from the south coast of Massachusetts. I'm from Fall River. It's like it truly is just on the North Shore. I've obviously been up there and I've had some a couple times. I've never had a bad one. They're delicious. I still don't really know how it works, like river sauce and stuff like that.
Yeah, James River. The James River barbecue sauce, the mayo.
But I forget, like if it's like, I forget how, you order a Philly cheesesteak, like
right.
without. I don't know the language of it. Yeah. So like every time I've had it, it's been a buddy ordered it for me. But they're fucking delicious. Yeah. They're really good.
But and it fascinates me too, because if you think of a regional delicacy like that, where does it stop? Like Detroit style pizza in the middle of Detroit, I'm sure that's all you fucking get, right? And I like Detroit style pizza. I like the burnt edges inside the pan. But how far out of Detroit before they stop doing it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, where does the thing to make it truly regional? And these North Shore beefs, again, they are delicious, but they are truly regional because even though they're huge in Marblehead, wherever the fuck you guys are up there They're not big in Scituate.
Nope.
Right? Like that would be kind of like,
South Shore, yeah.
almost like a line of demarcation. And it does fascinate me.
Which, what about this? I've pitched this many, many years ago. Obviously, I'll never do anything with it. You're a rich gentleman. You could do something with it.
Okay.
Fast food company called Regions. And when you get in there, it's Philly cheesesteaks.
Right.
North Shore beef sandwiches, Detroit style pizza, steak tips.
At the
like
99.
Jambalaya, fucking anything that's like a regional food. It's
Right.
a national chain. Obviously, it won't be as good as the regionals, but like I fucking love a jambalaya, a gumbo. We were down in New Orleans doing those. Like, I don't understand why regional food stops it. Like once we know it's good, fucking make it for everybody.
Kentucky hot brown, which sounds like it sounds terrible, right? But you know, like, but all those things, I think they should have some sort of global appeal, like where you can have a full English breakfast in Brooklyn, but done right. You know what I mean? And so I don't know. I guess it loses its authenticity once it kind of gets away from Detroit, once it gets away from North Shore, once it gets away from
for sure, but
Kentucky.
It can become its own thing still, right? Like pizza's from Italy, or I guess I don't really know what the origin is, right? Right. People are like, no, that's American. Like, no, it's Italian. Like, whatever. But like, I don't know. I feel like you can do it everywhere. Just make it your own. Yeah. You put your own little spin on it.
There's a gentleman who does that in New York now with cheeseburgers. And he goes and he just makes the iconic cheeseburgers from all around. And he's a real history buff. So I'm hoping to do some stuff with him in the next couple of things.
What's your kind of take on cheeseburgers? Where you at with that? Like
I don't. So I'm at a point now where I enjoy a smash burger, but I miss pub burgers. I miss big fucking Minetta Tavern black label burgers, medium rare to rare, where it's bleeding like you read about. Honestly, it's bleeding like prom night right across the center of it. And I kind of miss that. Like my mom, when she would make us burgers as kids, and my mom and dad are both from Ireland, so my expectations were low, even as a child. But my mom used to make cheeseburgers that were almost like round. They were fucking like that. And now everyone is just smashing the shit out of them. And there's something to be said about the Maillard effect. And everyone just takes Thousand Island dressing, but gives it a zippy name. Like, you know what I'm saying? And there's something very good to be said about that. But 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, I'd rather sit down for a real fucking burger. It's like the one that I makes.
When Smash Burgers first came on the scene, 2 years ago?
Yeah, probably 2-3 years ago.
Something like that. Like when they really were hitting their peak. Yeah. I was in love with them. Because I was like, we've lost what the sandwich is, which is a handheld edible item. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those pub burgers, you're like I need 2 hands.
Yeah, the big.
It's falling out. Like a sandwich at its heart, something I can eat on the go. And I was very happy to have them back. And then I had a pub burger 2 nights ago, I think. And then I was like, never mind. I'm fucking done with smash burgers. Like these are what it's at.
And I'm not like so Shake Shack is a guilty pleasure of mine. Like I like just kind of going in there. I like the crinkle cut fries. I love the shakes and all that stuff. So that's always going to be something that I go to as a guilty pleasure. That's the closest thing to like real fasty food that I go to, even though it's fast casual. But like to your point, I'd gone to, I think it was Pippin's Pub in Bay Ridge, and they gave me a fat one on a well-done toasted English muffin. You know what I mean? It takes my breath away. So
English muffin burger.
Oh yeah. What else did you grow up with? Like did you grow up in a household where people knew how to cook, or did you grow up in a household where it was pot pies in the oven for 45 minutes?
I was very lucky. I grew up in a household where my mother is an excellent cook. Very, very, very good cook. But she also considers herself a Depression era cook.
Oh, okay.
Because she's like, I grew up with my mom. She could just make anything with anything.
Nothing, yeah.
So she made a lot of pot pies. I loved pot pies.
No, we used to pop in the Marie calendars. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But she made her own, yeah.
But we would do the pot pies and stuff like that. But I grew up in a pretty food healthy, not healthy food, but like food healthy. Like my mom would always have food cooked for us.
And where are you on your food journey as far as, does your dad cook? So I know your pop. I know your dad.
No.
Yeah, but no, it didn't seem like he did. Does he master the grill? Like that's what most people do. No, not even that.
Doesn't even try.
And what about you?
I'm a solid cook. I don't get people who say they can't cook. Cooking is very simple. You're just following instructions. Literally anyone can do it. Obviously, some people can do it better. Some people can do it more creatively. But like, someone's like, I'll die if I don't. Like I couldn't possibly cook. I have to order food. I can't.
Right.
Like, well, you can. You just don't. Like you can do it. So I'm kind of like that. I can cook. Nothing exceptional or anything like that. But like, I've done HelloFresh for years. I wouldn't say I have the strongest palate, but I'm like I eat. I just fucking eat, dude. That's where I'm at.
Right.
I just eat.
But you're not
everything.
you're not fat fights right now. Where are you as far as like your weight? My top, I think, was 327. Like that was my top. What was your top? How tall are you?
I'm 6'2".
I'm 6'5". I was 327, I believe. Watching the NFL draft, and all the offensive linemen were going like 326. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like that whole thing. So I know that definitively 6'5", 327 was way too big. How big were you at your biggest?
I don't know. I've never been a scale guy. Okay. I look in the mirror and I'm like, I'd fuck me or I wouldn't.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
I would guess probably at my biggest, because I'm pretty, whether I'm fat or in shape, I'm pretty much 230.
Okay.
So I look better one way or the other.
But you're a strong fucking guy. Like I remember clips of you. Didn't you do like a combine at some point?
Yeah.
Where you jumped down where you jumped down on the bench. You started throwing shit up like you read about. And then we were talking about maybe you and Rough and Rowdy.
Yeah.
Like when we were talking about that.
That was I don't think we've ever talked about that. Me and Will were going to fight at Rough and Rowdy.
That's how, so Rough and Rowdy, I don't know where Rough and Rowdy is right now because they were trying to put it together with John Rocker, which was just doomed to fail from the very beginning. But that thing had fallen apart. But Rough and Rowdy is one of my favorite things in the world. I love being a part of it. Devlin works extremely hard with it. I think he does such a great job. I went down to fucking West Virginia by myself for a weekend, drove down there in the rain and back in the rain to get my referee license. So I'm a licensed amateur boxing referee in the state of West Virginia. For Rough and Rowdy, I
think we had the conversation right after you did that.
Yeah. And when you had mentioned to me, I think you pulled me aside. You were like, listen, I think this is going to go down. I think I might be fighting Will Compton. And right away, you think about a guy who used to be in the NFL, that he's going to fucking end you.
Yeah.
Like you think about that. But then I also know that I've been beat up by hockey players before, and you have no center of gravity, right? It's almost like your feet are cemented into the fucking concrete because you're not like standing on blades. I thought that was the best one-on-one Barstool versus Barstool content creator matchup that Rough and Rowdy could ever do. Why did it fall apart?
I completely agree with you. I do not.
It's the best one that's ever that could have happened.
I do not think I would have won, but I thought the reason I would have done it is like I think I could have survived.
No, I think yeah.
I think I would have gotten a couple in, but I think ultimately Will would have won. But I think I would have been standing next to him when his hand was raised.
I disagree, but go ahead. Yeah. I mean, you're not giving yourself enough credit.
It was in the wake of Surviving Barstool season 1, or not season 1, but whatever the one before this last one. And me and Will had become friends during it, and we were friends beforehand, but we got much closer during it. And we'd been working out together during that week while we were there. And then when we were both towards the end, we were like, not we, I think it was more me. But I was like, dude, like we can probably parlay because only one of us is going to win this.
Yeah.
So I was like, we can probably like let's fight at Rough and Rowdy afterwards, and then we'll get an even bigger payday out of that. And he was like, I love it. I don't know if Will totally understood what I was pitching. Because it like if you go back and watch Surviving season 1, or again, whatever season, it was I think I was 4th place, and it was like up to Will to like let me into the final 3.
Okay.
And we didn't, and then I was kind of busting his balls afterwards, like, you're just scared of me. And I thought from there, I think we both thought maybe from there we would kind of do a Surviving Rough and Rowdy. But then I think he was still training at the time. I think he was still trying to get on Atlanta. And then maybe he had a kid, and things just kind of fell out. And then because then we also had months after talking about it before the show aired, so it just really lost a lot of steam.
Right.
And then I think once the show started airing, I texted him and was just like, "Yo, are we still doing this?" And he's like, oh, yeah. Ha, ha, ha. I think he was on vacation with his wife at the time. And it just kind of never
He
materialized.
punked out.
Yeah.
Fucking bitch.
I
like
really
Will a
think
lot.
he just kind of didn't
Yeah.
we just forgot about it and kind of deal. But that would have been fun. I would have done that. That would have been.
Would you do it anyway? Like, I'm not saying necessarily with Will, and I know that Will and they've moved on. Will and Taylor have moved on,
Yeah.
right? They're doing their gig somewhere else. I don't even know where, and I'm not going to promote it either. So fuck those guys. But is that something that you think that there's like, a spot for you to go in there and beat shit out of somebody?
I wouldn't not do it, but I wouldn't do it. See, this was another thing with Will that, just a fear he'd brought up where he was like, because we're the booze ponies,
Yeah.
we're teammates. And he was like, it's going to be hard to pretend we hate each other.
Right.
And
right.
that kind of speaks to my larger thing with Rough and Rowdy. I would never fight someone who I was angry at. Like, I wouldn't fight someone who like, oh, I'm so mad at so-and-so said about me. I'm on their podcast. We got to get
Right.
Rough and Rowdy. I'd fight a friend.
Yeah.
And I'd fight someone like who I'm boys with, who I'm close with. And like, we'd hug afterwards and be fine.
Right. You don't
I
want to
think-
do it animosity wise. And I can see that
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not going to do like a whole run where like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just not really my style. So I think I would be better at like just me and a buddy getting in there and fucking each other up a little bit.
Without glazing you too much though, since you are one of like the main content guys, you also can't just fight anybody. Like, you know what I mean? Like if somebody comes in, I know when I talk to people about the matchups, I think you would ask me if I'd help train you.
Yeah.
At the time, because I used to fight, I was like, yeah, I would definitely get in there. I'd be like Mick from Rocky. I would love to do that. But like a guy whose name gets bandied about when people talk about guys within Barstool going to fight is somebody we just mentioned before he came on the air, Snapchat Steve.
Oh, yeah.
I would never fucking fight that guy. Like, and he's the nicest guy in the world, but not a lot of people know him enough, right? Because he's behind the camera. He's an extremely talented producer. I think he would fuck people up.
For sure.
So you can't get people in content to go in there and be like, all right, so I have a certain amount of followers and I got all this stuff. I'm fighting this guy who nobody knows and I'm about to get my fucking stool pushed in. You know what I mean? So it's like a gentle balance.
Right.
Yeah. I want to fight Clem. I think I'd like to fight Clem. I love that fucking guy so much. I would kiss him on the mouth. What's something that people that would be embarrassed to hear that you eat on a regular basis? I put mayonnaise on aspirin. Your turn. Go.
What?
Put a little aspirin on mayonnaise.
Why?
A little, what? Just go down smoother. I don't
So
do
it's
that
a
at all.
swallowing thing?
No, I just
Oh.
no, but like, is there
I was gonna
something?
say, aspirin tastes delicious. Why would you fuck with it
a
like
fucking
that?
nice little Advil. I will tell you, I was walking on the second floor of my old house and I was dragging my feet because I'm fat and old, and my big toe popped an Advil out of a deep shag rug that barely had any color on it. It's been in the rug for maybe years. And I was like, oh, boom, you pop it in. Like, who doesn't want to feel just a little better? Still got a little bit of sweetness. No, but I make tomato sandwiches all the time, just white bread, fucking mayonnaise, too much salt, and way overripe tomatoes. And I think when I do, my wife's like, really? I'm like, yeah, this is high cuisine for me. Even though I've eaten in some of the best restaurants in the world and I've cooked some dishes that would knock your fucking eye out. I eat canned corned beef. You know, the ones that kind of opens up. I eat a lot of Spam. I eat more Spam than most people should.
Hawaiian.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm partially Hawaiian. Like, so that type of stuff I'm not overly proud of, but I'm never going to stop eating. Is there something that Feits does, even if it's late at night or something?
I mean, I'm a garbage pail. It is.
Are you?
It would be hard.
But you're not unhealthy.
No,
Okay.
I'm a healthy meal eater.
Okay.
And then when I graze, I'm pretty. I'll eat anything, but like my breakfast, lunch, and dinner is pretty solid. Like
Okay.
a nutritionist would look at it and go like, that's pretty good. As long as he's not eating 3,000 calories worth of sugar on the side. I'd be like, well, that's exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is that your Milky Way?
Yeah.
So that's perfect.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And that'll be like my fourth of the day.
Yeah.
It's 1 p.m. The thing that again probably would shock the I don't know, people unfamiliar with me would probably be my slop bucket, which is I keep this bucket in my fridge of just all my leftovers from the week.
Really?
And then when I'm
so I don't know about that. Was this something you had mentioned to me?
I mean, there's unlimited things we can go into with fights and food.
But what is a slop bucket? Because I told a story about one of the best meals I've ever had in my life was at a Brauhaus in Frankfurt, Germany. I was hung to the gills. My voice sounded like this. and this big fucking German waitress, ugly as sin, but just like gorgeous, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she's like, I know exactly what you need, you know? And so she brings me out a slaughter bowl, and it was this big earthenware bowl. And inside of it was like organ meats, chops, sausages, all kind of swimming in their own blood and juice, with a big thing of warm brown bread, a crock of sweet cream butter, and a crock of whole grain mustard, and a giant stein of like a light Pilsner. And she gave that to me. And I was on the balls of my ass. I had a big white wine night the night before. I was at a German speakeasy, got into a fight with somebody. I said, you bird dogging me, Adolf? I said that like type shit. But I found out that the Rieslings that they send over here are shit. So I'm drinking these sweet fucking white wines over there, dessert wines. And I tear into this slaughter bowl the next day. I've been chasing that high forever. So that's what I consider my buck, you know, like, that's my slaughter bowl. I don't know the slot bucket. Please tell me about it.
It's very, very similar. It's probably got some pork in it, probably some chicken. There's probably some rice, some sweet potatoes, broccoli, like just anything like I'll scrape off a plate.
Really?
Like, which is, it's honestly, it's more from my Hello Freshes, because when I make a Hello Fresh, it's 2 meals.
Yeah.
But they're both a little smaller. So I usually eat like 1.5.
Right.
So I'll have like half left and I'll throw that in one. And then the next night I'll cook new ones and I'll have about half left of the other one. I'll put that in there. And then like Thursday, Friday, I'll kind of just zap those. So it's like, it's a mix of like a stir fry and also a chicken breast and also this and that. And it's fucking delicious. It's very easy. It's very simple. And GQ did an article on it this month. GQ did an article on how they didn't call it the slop bucket, but they called it the same thing. It's like they called it the slop bowl, I think.
Okay.
And it was like a slop bowl is a perfectly normal way to eat. And I was like, fuck it. I've been saying that for years. Thank you. Thank you.
Carrying the torch. Yeah.
So that's probably it. I mean, but again, like I eat a lot of candy. I eat like a dangerous amount of candy.
Really?
To the point where I joke about it enough, but like I'm like, I got to start making some changes.
Or else you're going to lose a foot.
Like but I've been checked for, like, you know, I go to the doctor pretty regularly and they're like, no, you're perfectly healthy. You're not in danger of being diabetic or anything like that, which I think is because I'm bigger. Like,
yeah,
I think like Pat says he has 2 bags of M&Ms a night and he's pre-diabetic. I have so much more sugar than that.
Really?
Like, dude, from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m., it is just like, it's chocolate bars and Sour Patch Kids. And it's just,
dark chocolate, milk chocolate, white chocolate.
Dark chocolate mostly.
Yeah. So white chocolate is for prostitutes and little girls, right? Milk chocolate is for people who don't know about dark chocolate, and dark chocolate's for gentlemen.
That was the first time in my life, probably the first sign I ever recognized in myself of maturing was when I started.
When you made the leap. Are you a coffee guy?
No.
See, I love dark chocolate. I love the bitter. And I'm talking about whenever they say, what kind of cacao do you want in it? I go like 80% and above. Like, I like that bitter, but I don't drink coffee. Like, that's one thing that people are shocked to hear that about me. Like, and then they're not so shocked. I'm Michael McCarthy and I just drink tea. Kind of makes a little bit more sense. Like, I make a pot of tea usually once a day. And my daughter and I, you know, like, not tea parties. That's how we drink our tea. I do it on saucers and shit. Mm-hmm. And I love the whole pomp and circumstance around it. And plus, I'm just always been a tea drinker. That bitterness from coffee, I just don't like. The smell of coffee, I love. And it just reminds me of my love for dark chocolate. It doesn't carry over to that. I don't want to force it because I don't need another vice, though.
Yeah. I don't dislike coffee. I don't like the way it makes me feel.
Oh, okay.
I get, for some reason, because I've taken all the uppers, for some reason, caffeine's the one that gets me.
Right. Like, easy with the upper talk. We had Sue Feiner on here last week.
Yeah. Not as many as him.
Did you hear that fucking that death row meal his? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. April. Yeah. Peruvian flake. It's fucking crazy. He's coming on again. I love that guy so much.
Yeah. No, I actually shouldn't have mentioned uppers in his wake. It's like,
yeah,
you don't do uppers like Stu Feiner does. Yeah. But caffeine, even like soda, I can have a soda. I have like a small cup of coffee. I'm sweating. I'm panicky. I'm shaky.
Right.
I don't know why.
And he just started drinking cortados. I don't know exactly what it's made up of, but it's part espresso, part something else. Houses never look cleaner. Really? Honestly, like she's on a wheel. Like, I know that if I call her and, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I just got back from coffee store. Just said, I'll call you back because I just don't want to get that type thing.
Wait, did you say she has affogatos?
Cortados.
What's that?
Affogatos are the coffee over ice cream.
Yes,
that's
those
an elite fucking type. My son, who's a coffee drinker, Finnegan. Oh, he loves, obviously Finnegan's coffee drinker. He loves those fucking things, and that's a dessert.
Yeah,
Cortados is espresso with
steamed milk.
Yeah, so it's like you do a triple espresso. It's still in a smaller cup, and then they add the steamed milk that you would for I don't know, whatever the fuck it is. Again, I'm coffee illiterate, but she does that and she's on a wheel.
But espresso I can do.
Oh, you can? Okay.
I can have a glass of espresso, and I'll do that at particularly when I'm traveling and stuff like that. I'll do that at night, kind of.
Right.
But a coffee, just a coffee, I can't do.
You have a favorite restaurant? I don't.
Not really. No.
Okay.
I have restaurants I like, obviously, but
no, if you don't have it, I think it's an unfair question to ask me.
Yeah.
Because I go to so many that I don't think I do. I go to Arturo's quite a bit, place out by me. There are places, but if somebody's like, well, what's the best food? Or what's the best thing? It's too much. Do you have a favorite cuisine?
No.
If you had to wipe out one fucking, I'll do that. I think it's Bussin' with the Boys. Again, they're dead to me, so I can use it.
Roan.com.
Roan.com does it too?
They did the.
That's where they started?
The question was two of the Bussin' with the Boys on the first episode of Warm Ones on Roan.com.
Nice, yeah. So just, Ian does social also for free. By the way, Ian's not supposed to be doing any of this shit, right? He's third floor guy. He's got a bunch of other stuff, and he's doing this just to make content. It's more than can be said about a lot of people.
Dedicated to the game, yeah.
One cuisine for the rest of your life, but whoever that cuisine came from is wiped off the face of the earth like a Thanos snap.
Oh, fuck me.
So right away, Stu goes, the Chinese. And I was like, what? You don't like the Chinese for breakfast? And I think he chose it because of Chinese people. I was like, no. I was like, Stu, you have a chance here. Remember the late 30s? Some shit happened to your people.
Right.
Go German. He's like, no, the Chinese.
No.
You know what I'm saying? He's fucked up. Yeah. Is there something that you could see yourself kind of eating every day? It's an impossible question too.
I mean, it's so hard because I could eat anything every day.
Right.
If gun to my head, I had to keep something, I'm probably keeping American.
Right.
I
kind of
which then we could get into the debate. What does that even fucking
What is
mean?
it?
But I'm most comfortable. I always feel like when I'm traveling, and so I'm thinking more of traveling, not ordering Chinese food in America.
Right.
But whenever I'm traveling, I always look, if the food's amazing, I always love it. But I'm always it's just a little different.
Yeah.
And I just feel it's like when you were a kid and you'd go to your friend's house and you're like, it just smells different.
Right.
It's not bad, it's not good, but it doesn't smell like home in here. And I kind of feel that way with other foods, cuisines. I love them all and I'm happy to be there, but it's just it's not quite what I'm used to. I remember, dude, I was in the Azores in Portugal.
Beautiful part of the world.
The Hawaii of Europe, as they say.
Yeah.
And because I'm from in my hometown, would you grow up eating a lot?
Falls River?
I'm from Fall River. It's incredibly Portuguese, shockingly Portuguese. I think it's 90% Portuguese people.
Is that Emeril Lagasse?
Yeah, Emeril Lagasse.
Yep.
And so I grew up on a lot of charisse and stuff like that. And in Portugal, we were there visiting, and we went to this dinner on a farm, and they brought out these steaks, and they're these were just killed up there, and it was one of the worst steaks I ever had. And I was like, I guess I like preservatives.
You
and
do.
pesticides.
Yeah, you do like them.
That.
Yeah. I find myself the same way. Sometimes I'll have a burger in London and I'm like, I don't know. I guess I need those steroids or whatever the fuck it is.
I had I had a dog. I was so hungover one day, dude. So probably the most hungover I've ever been in my life. I went to, my buddy called me on a Wednesday and he's like, what are you doing this weekend? I go, I'm not doing anything. He goes, I got tickets to Liverpool. You want to go? And I was like, fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So, but we're both so goddamn dumb large that we were did no research, no nothing.
Of course.
So we were like, we'll fly into London. We'll party in London Friday night. We'll go to Liverpool Saturday. How far could that be? And
exactly.
So we party in London.
Isn't London the same size as Brooklyn?
I was like, how big could the fucking England be?
Yeah,
I'm taking cab to the game.
Yeah.
So we partied from the moment we got there until 4 a.m. At 4 a.m., we start looking at how we're going to get to Anfield the next day. And I'm like, bro, it's 4.5 hours away.
Yeah.
And it's only by train, or I guess you could take a car. And all of the fucking Acela type cars are sold out. So we had to take a fucking Metro North.
Yeah.
4.5 hours.
That stuff.
And I'm hungover as just shit. Like I'd done Adderall the night before, and I don't ever do Adderall, so I was like all wiry. And I get to Anfield, and I'm like, I just need something to sustain myself. Like, I'm gonna die. And I figured, how can you fuck up a hot dog? Like I can get that in my stomach and get that settled. Yeah. I had like 3 bites of an English hot dog and was puking.
Couldn't do
everywhere.
Oh, really?
It was terrible. Like the worst hot dog I've ever had in my life. It was disgusting.
I'm addicted to, I think it's Footy Scran.
Yes.
And all they do is show the different dishes from different, football stadiums. And they look so good. And and the guy seems like a really nice guy. I always quote tweet it and say would. Just to give like more like shine to it, because I really like what the guy's doing and whatnot. I don't know if I would on all of them. Just because I've watched Arsenal games in the rain for like a 0-0 tie where I've had people run me into little hot cups of Bovril. You ever Bovril?
No.
So like we just had that Marmite. Bovril is also like that tar. Does nothing to do with Marmite. And you just mix it in hot water, it turns into beef broth. It's like, like concentrated beef broth. So you can go to like a soccer game over there, a football game, and just drink hot cups of beef broth in the thing. That's nice.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? You got your hands around it too. I think that's gentlemanly and they do it. But I do think that there is a little bit of disconnect on how delicious the food is here across the board. And believe me, you're getting the A5 coming over from Japan. Yeah. It's the greatest.
Not a Wagyu guy.
Oh, you're not a Wagyu guy. Why is that?
Too soft, I think. I don't love the texture. I don't know. Look, if it's on the plate, I'm not throwing it off, but yes, I don't order it.
You know what? It's funny that you say that because I shit on filet mignon all the time for the reason why you don't like Wagyu.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It has to be cooked absolutely perfect, and there's nothing like it in the world because it does turn to butter as opposed to like that, that mushiness that it is. But I can see your argument there, even though you're wrong. I think I can see your argument there. Do you have a death row meal? No? How about this? Is there something that you've had somewhere along the line, like I'm chasing the high with the slaughter bowl, that you wish that you can get back? Maybe a childhood meal that just was the greatest thing when you got home from school. Like my mom was Ilios pizzas, yeah. Ilios pizzas. Every now and again when they went on sale, my mom would go Stouffer's French bread, which was fucking way out of our price range. But when you stepped up and then I made a Stouffer's French bread the other day and it wasn't that good. But back in the day, man, I wish I can get that back.
Yeah.
Like is there something that you wish you can get back? Like, you know what I mean? You've had it once or twice. You just want it again, just like that.
Man, they're so niche things. Like
I don't give people these questions beforehand. So, and I hate to put people on the spot because I have these right in the tip of my tongue because all I care about is food. I barely don't know. I don't know my kids' names. You know what I mean? But is there something?
There's my cousin's grandmother used to make. She owned a catering company, and she would make a lobster and corn stew. Or lobster and corn chowder.
This is a perfect answer.
That was unbelievable. Like the greatest thing I've ever tasted in my life. And I worked at the catering company when I was like probably 15, something like that. And I would clean dishes. And I remember one time watching her make it. I was like, Graham, what is the secret ingredient here? And she just dumped like 6 sticks of butter in it. And she was like, that's all it is right there. Yeah. But it's from Pharisees Catering. It was a lobster corn stew that was to die. And their cake. Oh my God.
See, but I mean, that's the whole deal, Ian. The fact that you have a palate of a 12-year-old means you'll never be able to, you can't just chase dino nuggets your whole fucking life. But what I'm saying is like, so to hear this guy light up about his cousin's somebody's fucking grandmother making this type of thing, that fucking melts my heart. Then like, oh shit, her chocolate cake also. I'm assuming she's not with us anymore.
She's no longer with us.
You'll never have that again. And you'll never be able to replicate it at home or in a fucking restaurant. That's special.
One time my mom and I broke into her home to steal some cake. We knew they weren't home. We knew they had made cake because of the way we had been at a birthday party the night before, 2 nights before. And we were driving by their house and my mom's like, you want some of that cake?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. She goes, they're not home. Let's go steal some.
Yeah.
So we broke in their back door, cut ourselves like 2 slices of cake and left. And I was like, and once again, in the cake, secret ingredient, butter. But it was fucking unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unreal.
I think Bourdain had said too, right? The difference between restaurant stuff, because some people don't eat carrots at home, but in restaurants they had butter and sugar.
Yes.
So butter and sugar are the two fucking things that put things. My wife grew up next to something. I'm mentioning Annie a lot today. She grew up next to, I think, a young man, and a play date at another neighbor's house. He had a peanut butter and jelly and loved it. And so when the moms were talking, she was like, I'm so surprised. My son, he doesn't eat peanut butter and jellies when I do it.
Yeah.
But he would at your house. And the one goes, oh, well, I don't do anything. I use maybe Jif instead of Skippy or something. So the mom went and said, oh, I'm using Jif so you can have it just like you had at Mrs. Jones's house. Kid's like, I tried it. He's like, nah, this isn't it. Boom, and pushed it away. So then she went to him and she's like, oh, I use Smuckers instead of something jelly. Oh, I'm using Smuckers now. So now we got the Jif Smuckers thing, just like Mrs. Jones's house. Gave it to the kid. Kid was like, no. And then he was at school. The mom had Miss Jones come over and make the sandwich. And then when he came home from school, she's like, I'm going to try it one more time. This is exactly how Miss Jones usually makes it. I think I got it. And he gave him the same exact sandwich that she made the day before, but Mrs. Jones had done it. And he was like, yeah, this is it. Like, so there's just something to it, like unless she brought her own butter knife, there is no real difference. Yeah. My mom made me a thermos of tea. I went fishing with my father. I'm lucky enough to have my mom and dad still alive, right? Blessing for a guy my age. I can't find that cup of tea anymore. Like, you know what I mean? I'm chasing that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people will do that for the rest of their fucking life. And that's a good thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think, what were you going to ask him about it? What are things?
On KFC radio, they take voicemails, and I've been leaving them ever since I started listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
I leave this video voicemail about I'll call it the autism lunch meal that my brother basically called me autistic for eating Dino Nuggets and Smiley French fries.
Yeah.
And I thought it was funny. It went viral on TikTok. That's why I sent the voicemail in. And then John gets on KFC radio and goes, this kid's like, this is weird. Like, almost like I don't know, if you're not a kid, don't be doing kid stuff. You weird,
right.
You weirdo. Yeah. I was like, it's not that deep. I just think they taste better when they're shaped. That's all.
Right.
No, I wasn't saying you specifically. But if my buddy was like, dude, I love Dino Nuggets and Smiley Faces, I'd be like, how have we been friends
It's a flag.
long, dude?
It's an ick.
It's fair. It's very fair.
It's a fucking ick. I'm not going to take up any more of your time. So this is John Feitelberg. He's coming on. I'll have you on again at some point. Is that
Please,
okay with you?
I'm happy to eat anytime.
I had asked John, listen, would you do this thing with me? He's like, Large, I will definitely do it, but you have to give me at least 2 hours notice. I went to all the things that I want to hear. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Fights. Thanks so much.
I appreciate your friendship as well. That's a nice exit.
It's a nice thing to say, right?
Yeah.
But when I see you, I enjoy seeing you.
Yeah, I do.
Like I find there are people here at Barstool who don't say hello to anybody. Like there's some people who just naturally just walk to the desk and back.
They got Dino Nuggets and Smiley Faces for lunch. Yeah. That's the autistic crew.
We'll see you next week. All right. So that was John Feitelberg. Again, nothing but home runs as far as I'm concerned for the people that I get to interview on this show. I just spoke with Nate here, one of our editors-in-chief. I'm doing an omakase with Nate. I think it's going to be interesting. And as I'm talking to him, Ken Jack was right next to him. I said, Ken Jack, want to do some food shit? He's like, yeah, my in-laws, who I believe are from mainland China, or at least maybe first generation. He's like, they can cook you a Chinese meal if you want to come over to the house. So I got all, Dante wants to come out. I think we're going to do some dry aging at Rocco's Steakhouse in a couple of weeks with these guys. So there's a bunch of stuff that we have queued up going forward on You Got to Try This. So subscribe, give us a good rating, whatever the hell, that is. And make sure you tune in every week on You Got to Try This.